What's going on, moviegoers? Welcome back to the channel. So we're going to check out, why did the golden age of original cinema end? And they're referring to the 90s. So let me know in the comments section, what is the golden era of cinema to you? I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. But before we get started, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into this video. Tybo. My mom had all the tapes. Jerry Springer. What a crazy time in TV.
The 1990s was a simple time. There was no social media or high-speed internet. People played board games. Sitcoms had laugh tracks. And presidents got impeached for their infidelity, not insurrections. But the 90s were also the golden era of original filmmaking. And now that we live in the time of reboots, remakes, sequels, and franchises based on kids' toys, we have to reflect on cinema's pinnacle and question, why did it end? Now, obviously, this is all pretty subjective, but there is an attitude out there that people that grew up in the 90s are just being nostalgic. The Simpsons didn't get worse, you just got older. Movies didn't get less original, you just hadn't seen enough movies yet. That things only seemed to be better because you were younger and you were still naively discovering things. And I guess there is no right or wrong here, except that if you hold that opinion, you are wrong, and I am going to show you why you're wrong right now. This is not to say that great movies don't get made at all anymore, but more so, original movies in cinema are no longer the center of our cultural conversation. It used to be that movies would come out and there would be a rush to see it first, to not have the ending spoiled, and for that initial week or two, it was the talk of the town. This allowed the film to carve its way into our cultural conversation, as we all saw it around the same time, and it developed a life of its own.
And that's interesting too, because that's true outside of the obvious with Fast and the Furious and Transformers and things like that. But whenever you talk about the best movies of the year, or the highest grossing movies of the year, there usually are sequels or remakes. I mean, I just got done seeing Gladiator 2. Like, that is a sequel to something that came out 24 years ago. Top Gun Maverick, a sequel to a movie that came out in the 80s. So a lot of the movies that come out nowadays are sequels to something else. I wonder how many original films you guys can name in the comment section that are actually really, really good movie. I wonder if you can name more than at least 10 in the past 2 years. Let me know.
There was then a delay between the time the movie came out and the time it hit video stores, sometimes taking up to a year. This delay of gratification created anticipation, as the coveted film that was locked away, creating scarcity, would now be released for its second life. So let's start with the number of original movies being made each year that actually make a cultural impact.
Oh, he got the receipts.
If we examine this chart, it shows us how many of the top 25 grossing films each year were original in blue, how many were based on previously existing work in orange, and how many were based on non-fiction characters and events in green.
Wow, look at 2018. I didn't even realize that. I wonder why he stopped at 2018 though. But it looks like 2009 did pretty good. 96 looks like it's the best out of all of them. Wow.
Note, many original movies that didn't become top grossing hits were still amazing, but this is merely to highlight where Hollywood's incentives lie. Now, even within the movies that are based on previously existing work, in the 90s, a lot of these were based on books like Jurassic Park or Silence of the Lambs, but these actually became originals in what would become a long-existing franchise. So there was even a higher standard of what counted as original back then, as Jurassic Park 1 is obviously more original than Jurassic Park 6, as it was a fresh introduction to that cinematic universe. So I would go as far as to count based on a novel or short story as pretty original by comparison, as the real issue is reboots, remakes, and sequels. Now, as we can see,
so he's changing what I thought he was talking about in the first place. Okay, got it.
Peaked in cultural relevance in 1996, but were steady throughout the decade. The noughties saw a small decline in originality, but as time goes on, year after year, the numbers slide down until hitting an all-time low in 2018. Now, this isn't to say that no new original movies get made anymore, but more so, they are not given the opportunity to become culturally relevant as the entertainment landscape has dramatically shifted.
And the thing is, a lot of things got a lot more expensive. The economy's different. It costs more money to do things. So you have to do things in order to guarantee a return on investment. And the best thing to bank on is the good old nostalgia, right? Anytime you put out anything nostalgia, you're going to get a ton of money for that. One of the highest grossing films of the year so far is, as I said, Gladiator 2. One of the highest grossing films of last year's was what? Top Gun Maverick. So nostalgia sells like crazy. It sells like crazy. So that's an automatic guarantee that you get your money back. That's why we get in these sequels like 24, 25, 26 years later. At least if that's not the main reason, that is definitely a part of why they're making these sequels. So that's just my opinion on that.
Due to the growing market of streaming services at home, cinemas have become a somewhat tedious extra step in consuming content. So a trip to your local movie theater now warrants a sort of special occasion to justify the expense, making cinemas more like a cathedral in which we worship our advancement in CGI technology, not an opportunity to showcase our progression in storytelling. This means original movies are pushed aside for Fast and the Furious 58 and the new recasting of Spider-Man, so they are less likely to get the marketing push they need to gain notoriety, instead temporarily being placed on the recommended page of a streaming service to either slowly gather attention through word of mouth or more than likely gather dust on a digital shelf as it drowns in a sea of other obscure titles. But while streaming services give us quicker and cleaner access to watch whatever we want, it becomes a culturally fragmented experience. Being able to watch anytime you want creates a lack of investment, where the movie has to win you over so that you stop looking at your phone rather than you really giving it a shot.
Yeah, too many
You
distractions.
also don't watch it on the same timeline as your peers, and therefore it doesn't earn the cultural moment it perhaps deserves. Or as Quentin Tarantino put it,
all right, so you go down you hit the guide and you go down the list and you hit there and you watch something, and then maybe you watch it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and you maybe start doing something else. Nah, I'm not really into this. However, there was a different quality to the video store. You looked around, you picked up boxes, you read the back of the boxes. There was more of a commitment to what you ended up getting.
So our evolving
and the other
habits
thing
as
is too, growing up back in that time, whenever you rented a vehicle, not a vehicle, but a video, and your parents paid for that, you had that movie for like 3 days. So you gonna watch that movie. If they paid for it, you were going to watch that movie. And as far as appointment viewing, we kind of had that experience, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when we had Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, right? And that may not be everyone's favorite match or favorite boxing card or whatever. But at the end of the day, it was a moment where everyone sat in front of their TVs for the most part and watched a singular event at the same time, which is what we got multiple moments like that back in the day. But as of now, just like with streaming, where you got your phones, you can watch a movie and watch something on YouTube at the same time, and then don't even know what happened in the movie because you were so distracted by TikTok or Twitter or whatever. And I'm not against social media platforms. I do the same thing. I do it all the time. But back then it was less distraction. Everybody was focused on what was going on the screen, especially if you lived in a house that only had one singular TV, then you were watching whatever anyone else in the room was watching. So it definitely was a different experience all around.
Consumers changed our relationship to cinema, but due to this change, it has also resulted in Hollywood studios trying to appeal to whatever audience is willing to go to the movie theater. And the answer increasingly appears to be more international markets like China. Why take the risk on marketing an original story with a decent budget when you can pump out another sequel for much higher returns?
China paid that big money too.
Has influenced the way movies are made. In the 90s, an original movie would be produced because it was championed by a movie star. They would then market it well, using basic but effective strategies like not giving away the ending in the trailer. And most of the time, they would not only make money, but leave behind a cultural landmark, as well as inspiring new filmmakers around the world. But this involved risk and investment, meaning they needed the movie to have a decent budget. It used to be that there were low-budget movies, medium-budget movies, and big-budget movies. But this shift has practically eliminated the medium-budget movie.
That type of movie just isn't, because the DVD market dried up, and so that really just so severely cut into the margins that studios would rather bet big on these big titles. And with this whole international audience, the simpler the story, the more that it can kind of play, the less language matters.
Meaning that it's either an earth-shatteringly expensive blockbuster franchise or a humble, low-budget personal story. A shout out to a wonderful website called StephenFollows.com that has compiled lots of interesting statistics on these trends. For certain genres, like romance, horror, thriller, biographical, and drama, every 5 years, from 1997 onwards, the average budget just shrinks more and more. Whereas for action and comedy, the numbers remain close to the same. But for adventure and fantasy, the budget just climbs higher and higher.
All that CGI. CGI is really expensive and time consuming, so I'm sure that plays a big role in all of that.
Fortunately for us, it was often the medium budget that left an imprint on our hearts and minds, creating tension, iconic shots, and amusing moments. But it's more difficult for any producer to risk investing in such a precarious market, as the golden era was propped up by the security of a bankable leading name.
Like, there are no movie stars anymore. Like, Anthony Mackie isn't a movie star. The Falcon is a movie star.
Hollywood used to invest in movie stars, real movie stars, someone that could carry a project from almost any genre.
When you went to the movies, you went to go see the Stallone movie. You went to go see the Schwarzenegger movie. Now you go see X-Men.
You would hear people say that they're going to see the next Harrison Ford movie or the next Will Smith movie that they knew nothing about just because they were in it. As if the story could captivate those stars' imaginations, then it simply must be good. This made movie stars incredibly influential.
And I still do that to this day. I got my favorite actors, and I'll say I'm going to go see, I'll say the name of the film, but I'll say I'm going to go see that new X, Y, and Z movie. Because I know at least if the entire movie is bad, I know for sure that that one actor is going to be the best part of that movie, and they're going to do a fantastic job, regardless of that. Now, that's the reason why, like, some people don't want to go see a random movie with people they've never heard of or seen before, unless it's based upon an IP that they grew up on. And even for them, that's kind of muddy waters, given the fact that a lot of people aren't too fond of Disney Marvel films nowadays. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
They liked a script. That could be enough to get it greenlit. And not for a modest budget either, because their presence would practically assure a return on investment.
Yep.
But why can't they do the same thing now? Well, typically movie stars break out in original movies, as their performance truly shines in a unique scenario which captures the imagination of the audience, not a remake where they're standing in someone else's footsteps or being cast in a known franchise. But a big reason for why movie stars hold less power nowadays is they are no longer a scarce commodity. Hollywood used to have total control over who had access to audiences around the world, and we received limited time with these stars through red carpet interviews or late night talk show appearances. But with the emergence of reality TV, social media, and online personalities, there is simply too much content to compete with nowadays.
And stars nowadays lose their mystique. That's what it was back in the day. Like your favorite musician, favorite actor, favorite whatever. You didn't know what was going on in their lives, and the only way that you can actually see what's going on in their personal life is if you picked up a magazine or watched some type of documentary. And even then, those are few and far in between. And the only time that you can actually visually see them is in whatever the next movie that they're going to be in. So you would go to those things in order to see what was going on with your favorite actor or actress or musician or whoever. Nowadays, again, like you said with social media, you can hear their every thought every 5 minutes on Twitter and on YouTube and on Facebook and things like that. And again, I'm not saying that these are bad things, but I think the mystique of a superstar does play a big role on how important these individuals are in these movies and in these articles and in these different things that, you know, most of them don't have nowadays. Not saying that they're less talented, just that they don't have that mystique that they used to have back in the day.
So while paparazzi used to stalk down innocent celebrities so that audiences could get a voyeuristic glimpse into their private life, nowadays, actors have to stay relevant on social media.
They
So
volunteer.
you're more likely to be shitting on their political hot take on Twitter than projecting an ideal personality onto them. This isn't to say it's all bad. Some great movies still get made, but they just don't resonate as much on a cultural level, and they're less original. The more original projects have moved to television, and although that suffers from the same cultural fragmentation,
Jumanji.
when it's good, it's better than ever. At least when it comes to drama and crime series. Not so much for comedy. So why can't you just get over the 90s? Was it really even that good? Well, let's take a look at some of the movies that were made in this golden era that are either purely original or the first time these characters and stories ever hit cinema screens, and try to compare that to culturally relevant movies today. 1990, we kick it all off by making Julia Roberts a star in a very romantic
Pretty
movie
Woman.
about a prostitute that wins over her wealthy client. Okay, I know it sounds weird, but it's original, and if you don't see that, then you're making a big mistake.
It's a good movie. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a good movie. And people thought that guys wouldn't like that movie. I think it's a good one, bro. Go check it out.
Huge.
Martin Scorsese delivers Goodfellas, one of the greatest mobster movies ever made.
Love that
Arnold
movie.
Schwarzenegger puts himself in a needlessly high-risk children's movie where he says lines like,
There is no bathroom!
and it actually works. Tim Burton and Johnny Depp team up for the first time in Edward Scissorhands, and we then close out the year with the Christmas classic, Home Alone.
Hello.
1991, Macaulay Culkin continues his rise in My Girl. He's not just great at torturing home invaders, now he has allergies that can make us cry. The family classics continue with Father of the Bride, and then Anthony Hopkins delivers one of the most influential performances of all time in Silence of the Lambs. 1992, Sharon Stone uncrosses her legs and the world won't ever forget it. Jack Nicholson tells us we can't handle the truth, and Quentin Tarantino bursts onto the scene with Reservoir Dogs, where we realize we actually like listening to criminals chit-chat before they kill each other. 1993, Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington cement themselves as masters of their craft in Philadelphia. Amazing original concepts like Groundhog Day emerge. Mrs. Doubtfire, one of the most insane ideas ever, somehow
R.I.P.
becomes a smash hit because Robin Williams. And Steven Spielberg delivers not one, but two masterpieces, with both Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. Still not sure how he pulled that off in the same year. 1994, Andy Dufresne escapes Shawshank. Forrest Gump teaches us that life is like a box of chocolates.
I love Forrest
Hugh
Gump.
Grant arrives as a bumbling everyman. The Lion King cements itself in our culture with Elton John writing The Circle of Life. And
Classic.
Tarantino changes the game with Pulp Fiction and makes John Travolta a star again. 1995, Scorsese puts Goodfellas in a Vegas casino with Sharon Stone, and we love it. Brad Pitt wants to know what's in the box in Seven, an iconic shootout in Heat. People were so into board games that Robin Williams got sucked into one in
Love that
Jumanji.
movie.
Kevin Spacey didn't have a limp at all, and Pixar changes the animation game with Toy Story. 1996, before it was a TV
Oh man, I love these years, man. I was, for the people who are younger than me, I wish you guys can go back and experience all of this stuff when it happened. It's so different.
series,
So different.
Fargo was another original from the Coen brothers. They blew up the White House for the first time in Independence Day. Wes Craven was back with a new horror franchise, and Tom Cruise did his first Mission Impossible stunts. 1997, Jack Nicholson develops empathy in As Good as It Gets. Matt Damon made himself a star by writing Good Will Hunting with Ben Affleck.
How do you like them apps?
The Men in Black franchise began, and Will Smith was performing the theme songs for his own movies. That was weird. Then Titanic smashed all box office records, and Leonardo DiCaprio announced himself as
King of the world!
1998, The Truman Show delivers social commentary that's increasingly relevant today. The dude just wanted his rug back. American History X exists, and Spielberg blows our minds with an iconic opening sequence in Saving Private Ryan. 1999, the golden era goes out with a bang. The Blair Witch Project starts the found footage trend. The Matrix reinvents the genre and creates the red pill, blue pill memes. Bruce Willis was dead the whole time, for fuck's sake. Tyler Durden tells us to
was
stop
crazy.
talking about Fight Club. Being John Malkovich introduces Charlie Kaufman onto the scene, and Stanley Kubrick
Never saw that
bids us
movie.
farewell with Eyes Wide Shut. And although that's only a short list of examples, that was the 1990s. And you can say that's just nostalgia, but look around you. Leo is still king of the world with no successor in sight. Disney is remaking live-action classics like The Lion King. They're still spitting out Jurassic Park movies. Scorsese is trying to recapture the magic of his mobster movies. Tarantino is still doing his thing. Jumanji got a reboot, and that reboot got a sequel. Home Alone is on TV every
shoulda got a
Christmas.
third one.
Hannibal had several sequels and a rebooted TV series. Tom Cruise is doing increasingly insane Mission Impossible stunts every few years, and The Matrix 4 is about to be released.
Oh, this
I'll
is
get
an old
over
video.
the 90s when modern entertainment stops living off the fumes of the 90s. Sure, there were always original movies, but the 90s hit the sweet spot, where there were still enough new great ideas to make, combined with enough star power to command a big enough budget that the production value didn't age too poorly. So say goodbye to the golden era of movies. And let's just hope that in the time of reboots, remakes, and sequels crowding our cinema screens, that more popular original movies get resurrected one day too.
This is a good video. Good video. It just reminds me of how great like the 90s were, man. And it's not just the nostalgic stuff. Like there's some movies from the 90s that I didn't see until I was an adult. So I can't even just place nostalgia on those things. But they have some great movies coming out. Like I don't know if you guys can see back here. This is a poster of Demolition Man. I love that movie. Came out in the 90s. It's so prophetic to a lot of things that happen in the future. But even still then, it was a great movie with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Great movie. I'm glad they didn't come out with a sequel because it would make no sense at all. In fact, you could just live real life and experience the sequel in real life. But at the end of the day, guys, what is the golden era of films to you guys? Let me know in the comment section. How do you feel about the movies in the 90s? And if you're around for that time, what are your top 5 movies that came out of the 90s? Thank you guys for sharing this moment with me. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Salute, peace, have a great day.